Hey, what's up, everybody? This is A Guest Please Statements. We are back for our fourth episode of GWW Weekly, which has kind of just become this fireside chat amongst friends, talking about all things geek. So it's a little unfair to viewers, but whatever we wind up talking about, spoilers. And therefore, for that reason, I want to start right off the bat and say there must be no discussion of the Walking Dead season premiere on this episode. Because I haven't seen it. I think it's airing right now in some places, or it's already been on, but I definitely am trying to stay on blackout about that until I can watch it tomorrow. So are any of you guys Walking Dead fans?
I am.
Okay. Not you, Peter?
I've never seen it.
Okay.
It's not that I'm not a fan, I just haven't had time.
Right. So I've got the lead off for tonight, and I guess it's going to be a little risky, but I guess I want to talk about the Nintendo NX,
which is there's the NX and now there's the Switch.
Right. This is the Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
So and for some reason I'm having a problem finding our live feed, but so it's definitely arrogant of me in my view on this matter, but I guess what I'm having is I'm having a really hard time with some of the conclusions I've seen some people come to, and some of these comments are made by people on our site, so I'm not. I just want to make sure nobody thinks that feels that I'm trying to subtweet them on our podcast. But it's more that I just don't. One, I don't remember who has said what, and two, in some of the comments that I've seen written on the Kale's article, our video games editor who posted his thoughts on the NX. I think there were some sentence structure issues where I couldn't really tell if somebody was agreeing with what Mikhail said or disagreeing with what he said. But the main thing is that the NX is going to be, I believe, predominantly designed / potentially fully manufactured by NVIDIA. And when you look at what Nintendo has said about it, and you consider the recent past pedigree of NVIDIA, it seems pretty clear to me that it's going to be, and they've said as much, that it is going to be based on a Tegra processor. So, the most recent gaming device, well, I shouldn't say that. So the closest thing to the Switch in terms of DNA is the NVIDIA Android TV, which came out last spring and ran on an NVIDIA X1 processor, which was a pretty incredibly powerful near mobile processor. I've talked a little bit about the power of that processor, but basically that processor runs just a skosh below what the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are pushing now. Right? It's a 1 teraflop processor. The PS4 and Xbox One today run processors that I think push 1.35 teraflops and like 1.54 teraflops. So right off the bat, a lot of what people have talked about is that the NX, the Switch, is going to be underpowered. And I'm like, in comparison to what? I'm like, the Android Shield TV runs very nearly at parity with the current generation consoles, and that chip came out a year ago. So I'm not sure from what perspective people think that it's going to be underpowered. The other problem I have is I think I've seen some people saying that they think it's going to be like a nerfed X1, and I'm like, why would that make any sense for NVIDIA? Why would we project at all that the processor that's in the Switch is not something that has advanced past what the X1 was a year ago? Because by the time this thing hits the street, it's going to be 2 years of design cycle down the road from what the X1 was. So I'm going to leave it at that and let you guys kick it around for a bit. I actually have to step away for a second, so if you guys can keep the podcast going, I'd appreciate it. I'll be right back.
Darn, and I have all these questions.
I think one thing that we need to remember is that what I've heard, the NX is different than the Switch. The NX, from what I understand, a lot of people believe it now to be like a Steam or Xbox Live service. So I think if you have like and basically allows you, if you have different Nintendo consoles, I don't even know if they're going to have any different ones these days. But I'm guessing maybe if you have like the mobile part of the console, then you have the home part of the console. It allows you to play your games rather when you're away or you're at home. So I could be wrong. The NX could be something else, but I don't think it's the same as the Switch. And I really haven't been following this topic. I just kind of saw the commercial and read a couple of things. I mean, it's nothing that blew my mind away.
Yeah. So what, from what I'm understanding, and I'm looking for the press release, the NX was the code name for the Switch. But I'm going to pull up this press release here. At least that's what some of the tech press that I listened to have been saying, is that the NX was the code name.
Okay.
Yeah, because let's see here. Just skimming through the press release doesn't tell you anything about it, but you know, it's like with the Xbox Project Scorpio. I'm sure when that comes out, they're not going to call it Project Scorpio, you know, or with Windows Thunderbolt or whatever it was called. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So both you and I take it, haven't done a research on the Switch.
Beyond the press release and the video, no, I haven't really. But there's really not a whole lot of research to do. You know what I mean? It's a tech demo and a press release.
Yeah. The only thing that I cared about was, you know, what are the games that they're going to have on it? And so far, we only know about, you know, Skyward Sword. We don't even know about the next big Mario game, you know, coming out. We did hear that Pokemon Game Freak, they were going to make something for it. And I've had my predictions, but then I went on Reddit and I asked a bunch of people, well, what do you think Game Freak is planning for a Switch release? And almost everybody thought it was going to be one of the spin-off games, like Pokemon Ranger, which hasn't made a presence in a while. And I did some research. Game Freak actually, you know, they've been doing more spin-off games lately. So that was like a big disappointment. So for me, I'm like, well, there's no real interest for me to get into the NX because Pokemon has usually, in many years, been the only reason that I've been picking up Nintendo consoles. So if I don't care for the next Pokemon game, then I don't care for the next big Nintendo game. And I'm still heavily into Pokemon Go every once in a while. I honestly think Pokemon should, you know, and Nintendo should focus more on the mobile. Like, I'm looking forward to Mario Run coming out.
That's disappointing to hear. But
yeah. So I'm just gonna throw this Nintendo press release up here, because what I found interesting was the amount of third-party game developing support that Nintendo is currently claiming. You know, Activision. Well, I mean, it's in their press release, so
I'll believe it when I see it.
Activision, Bethesda. God.
That's after
EA,
the city, I think, right?
Yeah. you know, there's some decent you know, third-party developers here. Konami, which is actually kind of surprising. The one that really warmed my heart was a Sega, though, and it looks like Square Enix is on board too so far. THQ, Ubisoft, Warner Brothers.
Whoa, did you say THQ?
Yeah, THQ Nordic.
So wait, is that the company that picked up the THQ brand? Because of course THQ went bankrupt like
Yeah,
3 years
I
ago.
think it's the company that picked up their trademark.
Okay. So this kind of blends into like one of my theories, right? So when you look at so let me summarize my theory on the hardware. Just full suit. So my theory is that that NVIDIA, what they are delivering in the Switch is the next step beyond the Tegra X1. It's that chip that we know that they have said that it's built on the Pascal architecture, and I think it's a chip that's going to arrive at parity with the so the Pascal architecture is what the GTX 1000 series cards are based on. The GTX 1060 mobile chip pushes about 3.5 teraflops. So my belief is that they are going to deliver a Tegra X2 that's at parity with the GTX 1060 mobile, which should be completely feasible, and have a chip that pushes about 3.54 teraflops, which exceeds what the current Xbox One and PS4 do now, but will be behind definitely what Scorpio pushes. And I'm not sure about the PS4 Pro. I can't remember if I looked at those specs or not. But my point is that people talk about the constraints of delivering that type of chip in that tight of space. So, and I think that's a bit preposterous, right? We have. Do you guys want me to go grab my Shield Android TV just so you can get a perspective on the size?
Yeah.
Let me see if you can see. So you can actually see it, right? So if you look over there, directly beneath, I'll go grab it too, but just so you can see. If you look at it over there, right in between the bottle of hand sanitizer and the Xbox One.
It's off camera.
Yeah, I think so.
Really? No, it's right there.
No, it's the camera crops, or the program crops the camera.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. I thought you could see. I thought you guys could see what I could see. So let me run over there and grab it real quick then.
The things we learn.
I mean, he was pointing to like off the screen. I was like,
All right. Well, that's definitely a producer's note because that's going to impact a lot of what it takes to get this place set up to do a podcast. So this is the NVIDIA Shield tablet, or NVIDIA Shield Android TV. So yes, it's got a bit of a riser on the back. I believe that that's entirely cosmetic because obviously PCBs are not built at angles, and I don't think that there are two PCBs in here. So I think that there's one single plane PCB running horizontally through this wedge. So basically, don't think about the crop here at the back. And the PCBs also don't get bigger at the back end of the circuit board. They're all, the wafer's all one size. So I think that there's one single PCB that runs through here to the middle. And yes, maybe there are some components with higher rise here on the back. But my point is that, this is the footprint of what they delivered last year that has a processor in it that runs at 2/3 of the capacity of the Xbox One and PS4 processors, right? So in comparison, this is my Samsung Galaxy Note 5, right, which is a 5.5-inch smartphone, right? I mean, you can kind of see this thing is roughly about overall twice the footprint, 2.5 times the footprint maybe of the Note 5, right?
so is Nintendo trying to get at then? They're saying that we're, as powerful or close to being powerful as the PS4 and the Xbox One, but we can also do mobile. Is that?
I don't know. So I don't think that they're trying to do mobile. And a few people have made comments about tablet gaming hasn't done well. They're not doing tablet gaming. Tablet gaming, as far as I'm concerned, inherently.
Well, what I mean by mobile is that you can take the console with you.
Yeah. So this is a complete tech nerd journalist.
Or maybe a better word would be it's portable.
Yes. Because in those conversational circles, we do make a difference between portable and mobile.
Yeah.
Not that I ever think that has made sense, but I think that's, So I make that distinction because people have tried to invoke the Switch being a play at mobile, and I don't think what they're doing is mobile gaming.
Right. It's portable.
Right. So the other thing with this is the thing that's fully ported, right? So it has a full-size Ethernet port, a full-size HDMI port, 2 USB ports, right? Space for a micro SD. So this is an incredibly small form factor computer / console that can sit vertically or horizontally. And so,
does it have a headphone jack? I hear those take up a lot of space.
It actually does not, and it doesn't need to because this has Bluetooth inside, and so just like you connect a Bluetooth headset, wireless Bluetooth headset to your phone, you could do the same with this. And I'm not sure if the Shield. I think the Shield controller and the Shield remote actually do have headphone ports that you can connect wired headphones to. So my point is this is this thing. You have things like the 13-inch Alienware laptops that have 900 series NVIDIA GPUs in them. You have things like, and I've disassembled one, but I had an Alienware Alpha, which ran a modified NVIDIA GTX 860 GPU in it. That was roughly the same footprint as this, right? So you can get incredibly small form factor things down to essentially tablet size, and I don't think it's as big an issue. And again, the Tegra X1 is an ARM processor that's going to. I think I claimed that it would be built on the 14 nanometer process size. It's a fab process. I think it'll be 16. Well, the X1 I think was 16 nanometer, so it should definitely be at least that. So my point is, I feel like a lot of the limitations people have brought up are limitations people have brought up who haven't been following NVIDIA, haven't been following advances in mobile technology, and aren't familiar with what tablet gaming is today. Because my thing is, if you give somebody a tablet or a phone, or you take the Shield Android TV and hook it up to a 27-inch monitor or whatever, and put a Shield controller in their hand, there's very little difference in that gameplay experience in playing an Asphalt game by Gameloft and playing an older version of Forza. I won't say the current version. There are some differences, but my point is that the controller fidelity is pretty much on parity. So I don't think there's anything that can be really said about this tablet-looking thing delivering a subpar on-the-go experience when it's coming equipped, with true game controllers, and if it uses a touch interface, will only be used as a matter of convenience.
Yeah, in watching the video and reading the press release, they really don't mention anything about touch, which is interesting. And quite honestly, that's when you're going to see a increase in battery life and processor utilization without that touch mucking things up. And I'm okay with no touch. I don't think that touch would necessarily enhance my my gameplay so much, especially if I'm playing a Zelda or Mario Kart. I did find it interesting that they did show some Skyrim, and then Bethesda says, well, maybe it won't be Skyrim that we give. That was a kind of an amusing little tidbit from Bethesda. But And going back to your discussion on mobile gaming, I think also that what people don't realize is the speed difference between optical or spinning media and flash media.
Right. Right.
I'm sure all three of us are well aware of load times. How many times have we sat in that goddamn elevator on Citadel just because the game needed to load the next zone? I mean,
right.
There's no seek time. There's no, there's no finding the fragments and putting them together. It's just so much faster when you have that flash media. So you don't need necessarily a ridiculously strong processor that you can bake a cake on.
Right. So, and that's not to say that there aren't questions about the Switch. I guess my issue is I feel like people aren't asking questions that really need to be asked, right? So here's my big question, being a 3DS owner, is what's the storage size going to be, right? Like the Android Pro sold for about $299, and it gave you a 500 gigabyte hard drive.
Right.
Like that to me is incredible. But the problem with the Nintendo 3DS, of course, is it uses SD cards. You still had to have a pretty burly SD card when you talked about downloading things digitally. This thing is going to run cartridges, but it's going to have a Nintendo basically app store, just like the 3DS does. And what concerns me is what is my local storage size going to be that's provided on board the device? Because I kind of feel like with a tablet that size, I have some 128 gig micro SD cards, and I'm hoping that's what they use. So I already have them rather than an SD card, or that the thing comes with a pretty sizable hard drive on board, or flash storage on board anyway.
Right, because for people who don't know, that is a micro SD card, and this one's only 64 gigabyte, but I mean, put it in. I mean, the storage is cheap. The storage sizes are smaller than they've literally ever been. I think this is one place that Nintendo could shoot themselves in the foot if they don't put, something close to 500 gigabytes, or even. I mean, this is a year off. Even a terabyte or two, I think they'd really be shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, they have been historically stingier with storage than the other console manufacturers have been, and they really need to get off that. Another thing I want to bring up is price, right? Some people have called me off my rocker to say that I'm projecting that the launch price for this thing is going to be $299, right? And that they feel that that's too high and Nintendo won't sell enough. And I'm like, so number one, we're talking about a device that does two things, right? It sits in a dock attached to your TV. It's going to output probably at least 1080p gaming video. The Tegra X1 processor was capable of doing 4K streaming content, right? So we're talking about bringing a chip into your house that can play 4K YouTube and Netflix and Amazon content, which to me is a big deal. And it's going to play games, and that you're going to be able to pick up and take on the go with you so that you have gaming continuity when you are on travel or taking the kids on a long road trip. That to me is easily worth $299. And need I remind everyone that the Nintendo 3DS, not saying it was successful, but debuted at a launch price of $249.99, right? And is not nearly the capability level that this thing is saying that it's going to be.
Right, and what if the PlayStation and Xbox always, the most recent ones debuted at, $400?
So PS4 was $299.
Was it?
I think so, and the Xbox One was $399. And then they dropped the Kinect and brought it down to $299.
Okay, so we're pretty much on par with what you'd expect a brand new console. And this one comes with portability.
And that to me is the big thing. You know, I know, so I can get the comparison and say, well, how is Nintendo going to launch their console at the same price that Xbox One or PS4 launched at? But my issue is that those consoles, number one, not only can you not take those consoles on the go, but you know the notion of moving your PSN or Xbox Live ID around and playing on different hardware or taking it on the go, I think is pretty problematic. You know, that first Xbox One was certainly not something, and I used to see this a lot, right? College kids flying home for the holidays, stuffing their consoles in these huge backpacks, are actually putting them back in their retail boxes and carrying them on the plane. This is something that provides a ton more convenience. Especially, I think one of the core use cases is parents, right? Parents who have, yes, it's a first world problem, but parents who have bought for their kids like a Nintendo Wii or Wii U and still bought them the portable, you know, DS or 3DS. I'm like, now you're going in a generation where you just buy one. And from being a guy who has had periods of his career that were high travel, right, and having to leave gaming desktops or gaming consoles at home for months at a time and not be able to complete gaming experiences that by the time I got back, like nobody was talking about those games, right? People had moved on. It's a huge deal to maintain gaming continuity as a business traveler, or with your kids to have this thing that I play in my office at home, but when we go on the road, I can take and attach to the seat, the back of the seat head cushion, right, and give my kids the controllers and let them play it in the car.
Yeah. As far as I mean, I think people are being harder on it because it's Nintendo. And let's face it, for the past, 15 years, Nintendo's been the one to make fun of. I mean, yes, the Wii was a ridiculously good seller, you know, for what it was, but I mean, by and large, most gamers have kind of written off Nintendo. So I think a lot of it just kind of shows everyone's bias. Me, I'm excited. I love Nintendo. I love Mario. Zelda's awesome. I would love to see them, you know, continue. And I feel like this may be their last hardware if it doesn't work. And which is unfortunate because I've always loved checking out how Nintendo is going to redesign the controller.
But Pete, on that, I would add that I think what people love is the design of Nintendo games. I mean, you have so many things that are similar to Nintendo games coming out these days. You know, they're like, it was big in the gaming world last week where an Ocean Horn launched on PS4 and Xbox One, or just PS4. It originally was on the PC, but since it's a very Zelda-like game, and I'm halfway through it, and honestly, it fills my Zelda fill, and it's sold 1 million copies now, which is pretty good for a Zelda knockoff. I mean, so what are people like, you know, what are you people like, you know, holding on to, you know, nostalgia, or the story, you know, because the only thing that makes Zelda is the fact that it's the characters, you know. I mean, you could go on, make a very similar game, but just not use the same characters. Sorry for playing devil's advocate, but that's my 2 cents.
You know, my feeling about Nintendo is, and yes, Peter, you're I think you're hitting it square on the head, right? Like, there's a lot of angst right now aimed at Nintendo because it's Nintendo, and my feeling is they've earned that criticism, right? The Wii U burned hot and fast, and then people really I feel like they realized that it didn't have a lot of depth, and so they dropped it and moved on. The Wii U just never really gained any traction, despite you know, people saying that they love the console. I love my Sega Saturn, right? I mean, it was one of the best consoles that I feel I've ever owned. But at the end of the day, I have to admit that it didn't sell well, and a lot of people didn't fall in love with it. And Dave, what you mentioned is, I guess I feel like Nintendo. There are some people who like the design of Nintendo games. You know, I hate to say it, maybe I'm a shallow gamer. There are some parts of Nintendo's presentation. Like, I'm just not into that mascot stuff, right? Like, I don't like. I realize that those games may have some depth, but I don't want to feel compelled. I don't want to feel like I should be playing a game because of who the game stars, right? Like, that to me is part of the Nintendo effect. I feel.
Yeah, it is. No, without a doubt.
Yeah, who it stars and who produced it. And it's a claim to fame to a certain extent, but I feel like the only thing that differentiates Nintendo from some other game publishers, right? Game publishers, not console manufacturers, is that they have production teams. They have Metal Gear Solid level production teams who have been at Nintendo and have stayed at Nintendo and punch out these like 6 to 8 franchises that are the core of Nintendo. Whereas the difference is no other console manufacturer takes or has that kind of a stable of production teams and keeps them first party and maintains them and forms the core of their business. The other console manufacturers, it floats a little more, I think. So, yeah, I mean, I guess what I like most about the Switch in terms of what you guys were talking about is, to me, it represents the best chance of any Nintendo console that I've seen to bring a combination of the mascot-oriented first-party Nintendo titles in a way that does not interfere with third parties bringing what I will refer to as core gaming content to the same platform. And what I was mentioning about the processor is, I think the only way that they and I get where Dave is coming from, right? Because there was a ton of third-party support claimed at the launch of the Wii U. And I think as those developers and publishers saw Nintendo's business model oriented around first party first, sometimes at the expense of third party devs, that they abandoned a lot of the titles and canceled a lot of the titles that they claimed they were bringing to the Wii. So I get that, but I think the only reason and way that we see that long list of third party partners for the Switch, because I don't think we would see that long a list this close to the history of the Wii. I think the only way that is feasible is if one of my predictions is correct, and that is that this Tegra chip that's going to be inside the Switch brings all the APIs that the X1 did. And the X1, the key ones for the X1 were that it supported OpenGL and DirectX. That now would move those developers into a world where, even though it's an ARM processor, the workload and feasibility of porting their games from one platform to the other, including the PC, becomes much smaller of an issue.
Yeah. I definitely agree with just really about everything you said, though. I do love the mascots.
Yeah. And and for me, when the mascots are in the right genre, like I love Mario Kart. It's like one of my
Of course, you love the racing game.
Right, but like I was saying to Dave, that's because I love racing games, right? The fact that it's a mascot doesn't matter. It's what genre is it in? It doesn't hit that drum beat.
But I almost could find a game that would mimic a Nintendo game. Like, for instance, if you want Mario Kart on the PC, and it's super similar. Same concept, different characters. And I can't remember where it was, but I found a list one time on Steam that had like games that like pretty much almost mimicked a bunch of the Nintendo ones. Like there's a game on Steam called like, what's it called? Like Pixelmon or something like that. And it's pretty much like a Pokemon knockoff. I mean, it didn't sell well, that one, but that's a bad example. But like, there are plenty of games that are similar that you can find elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my thing though is I don't want Mario Kart on the PC, right? Like I want hardcore racing games on the PC, right? I want Project Cars. I want Forza Horizon 3. I want Forza Motorsport 6, right? but I like hardware, and I like investing my time in a diversified manner, right? So if I run into something again, like I did with the Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death, right, where I just had to drop off that platform for 5 years, right, then I have other places where I can invest my gaming time, and I'm fully willing to invest that time in an additional piece of hardware from Nintendo. And in that scenario, right, I accept Mario Kart because it's not Forza Horizon 3, but it is a racing game and it's solid, you know. But man, you know, I would invest more time and money in Nintendo hardware if they can give me Mario Kart and support, you know, a solid first-person shooter, right, and a Need for Speed title. I mean, it doesn't have to be Forza or Gran Turismo, right? Give me Need for Speed on the Switch, and that will be good enough, right? And give me the ability to take that on the go with 3.5 teraflops, you know, computing throughput, so they can push, you know, lots of physics and lots of car models around, and that'll be fine.
And I think with me, I might just be a tad bit against consoles, because consoles to me are always the type of, like, when I was growing up in high school, I had friends like over a lot. And then when I hit college, like, my friends and I would just, that was the thing. You don't go over to your friend's house anymore, you know? We're more into doing other things. And also, I grew up in a small town, so there really wasn't anything else you did but to go over to your friend's house and play video games. So when I hit college, I was living in a, you know, a larger area. You know, I went from a small town of like less than 10,000 people living in an area with 100,000 people. And so there just wasn't I was going to pay all that money, you know, just for a console that I was going to play by myself. If I had friends that were like totally into the consoles scene and that, like, yeah, it'd be more important to me. But a lot of my friends have gravitated towards PC gaming, mobile gaming, and that's where I've kind of followed. And like, my friends were the type of friends that we played Nintendo, you know? My friends weren't the Xbox or PlayStation boys growing up, you know? So I just know from my generation, my group of friends, that's kind of where we went.
Yeah, no, and I completely get that, right? There's always, you know, when you look at ROI, well, it's like I tell people all the time, right? The people who say they don't want to do PC gaming, my thing is you're gonna buy a PC anyway, right? So automatically assume that you get a $300 to $600 sunk cost that if you don't buy something that's gaming capable, you're gonna buy anyway. And when you look at you know, some of like the it's changed a bit with the UWP apps, but when you look at some of the games that are in the Windows Store, like they run on anything. You know, not the things that also appear on Xbox One, but like things like Halo Wars and Gameloft games, like they're going to run, you know, on your cheap $500 Acer laptop, as well as, you know, your Alienware gaming laptop. So yeah, I completely get it. You know, and obviously Nintendo targets a different market. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a wait and see. You know, nobody can tell for certain. I've just been a little surprised by the claimed demise of the thing before it's even launched. In conversations that when people get into the technical area of specifications and like what this thing should be capable of doing, like it doesn't. I've just found a lot of comments that haven't made a lot of sense to me. You know, knowing what NVIDIA Silicon was like, you know, a year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago almost, and knowing what NVIDIA Silicon is like now, and what it should indicate about what the Switch's capabilities are going to be.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to. I kind of have kind of a question that kind of goes along the lines of what we're talking about. I think what I really want to know from you guys is kind of what type of gamer are you, you know, and what are your friends game as? Because I think that's a huge aspect to how you feel about the Nintendo Switch. So I don't know who wants to start.
I'll let you go, Pete. Stuff at the floor most of the time.
Well, so my friends and I wish we were gamers these days. My buddies from high school, out of the four that I still, or three or four that I'm still in contact with, they all have kids. They all have jobs.
Oh my gosh, you got a good group of friends.
Well, I mean, this is the three or four that I still bother to care about. You know,
Okay.
there's plenty others that I don't have any feelings for or against. That's neither here. That's just life. You know, you eventually have to weed people out. But I mean,
Yeah.
I am the most active gamer at maybe once a week if I'm lucky. Uh, I have too many crazy hobbies. So I'm the kind of gamer that just kind of wishes I were more of a gamer, and because of that, I stick with consoles. I used to be a pretty heavy PC gamer, you know, trying to buy, if not the best stuff out, the next best, and you know that takes time, that takes research, and that takes a lot of money. And you know, it just, you know, for my friends who still game, and for me, who has no kids and too many hobbies, it just doesn't make sense to stay on PC. Yeah, we could buy a cheap one, but in the end, I'm going to be spending my PC money on something more geared towards uh, editing large-scale photos rather than just graphics on a video game. So I tend to stick towards console and occasionally mobile phone gaming. But that's really me, and I'm not the best gamer anymore. So yeah, that's probably why I'm so up on the Switch, because hey, here's a console that it doesn't cost a whole lot of money, that I can, you know, it comes with two controllers essentially that I can, apparently, I mean, we're only guessing at this point because that's what the video kind of makes it seem like. You know, here's this little console that I can take with me portable, take it to my buddy's house. You know, he and I, with, you know, 20 minutes before we eat dinner, we can sit down and game up. Uh, and so to me, yeah, it's a little appealing, and I think my style of gaming currently does affect that very much. It's kind of a long-winded answer for you.
No, that's good.
But can we talk about the video for a second?
Yeah, I mean, please do. I have not actually, because I've wanted to formulate a lot of my concepts based on research. I have deliberately not watched the marketing videos at this point.
Okay, why the heck are all the gamers, number one, 20 somethings, number two, into high fashion, and number three, why are they constantly gaming everywhere they go?
Right, like
That's something against millennials, Pete?
Yes.
Oh shoot!
No, I don't. But I mean, it's
Oh.
some of my fondest memories as a kid are my parents playing games with me. You know, mom wasn't so good, but dad, you know, dad got me into Quake. But you know, dad and I would we'd all play Mario Kart. My brother, dad, and I would swap off, or you know, Super Mario Brothers or whatever. But it was a family thing. You know, and I'm kind of disappointed because I've always thought of Nintendo as a family console, to not see that marketing. You know, because my buddy who's got his son would love something like this that they could do on a plane ride. It just seemed like a weird way to market only towards trendy 20 somethings.
Let me take it. I want to answer this part. Sorry. I would say this has a lot to do with how America is now. Thanks to certain presidents and policy. You know, Yeah, I grew up with you in a similar fashion where my dad started playing the Super Nintendo with me and my siblings. But, you know, as prices went up for housing and so many other things, like my dad got busier, and there isn't any time for families to do that with their kids, at least the ones that I know in my world. You know, I know most households, both parents are working, whereas I feel like in your generation, it was still a little bit of, no.
No, everyone was working when I was a kid. I'm
Okay.
not much older than you.
I just see it now, whereas there's just not that bond anymore between kids and their parents. You know, I think so now they're saying, well, Nintendo is going towards those kids that were raised up in that household now. And the other thing too, I think not only is Nintendo trying to cater to those kids that were raised in that type of situation, but I think families don't necessarily have that money anymore to spend on $300 for a console, you know? Just because, I mean, here in California, like the average house in my area is like $500,000. And families can barely afford to, you know, to afford a house here unless like you're super wealthy. So I just don't think an average family can afford a Nintendo console anymore. And I just think that's just because everything else went up in price, you know. I mean, think about how many other things that we have these days. We have smartphones. You know, when the Super Nintendo was out, you weren't paying all that money for that. Gas has gone up. You know, food's gone up. And I think entertainment, you know, is the first to go for you know, an average family. So that's my say on that.
So I'm going to starkly disagree with maybe both of you. And Dave, just because you were the last one to speak, I'm going to backpedal through your comments, not because like I'm targeting you or anything. But so number one, in terms of economics, what we've seen over different business cycles is that actually entertainment costs are the last thing that people are willing to give up. They will find ways to pinch money on gas. You know, buy cheaper food, you know, buy, you know, white label stuff before they will give up going to the movies and playing video games. Actually, those industries, even in the recent recession, actually improved their earnings margins while pretty much every other business sector declined. So there's that. I don't know that families have less disposable income these days. You're right. We are buying other things that are competing against video games, and I'll definitely agree with that. Right, this is even more so in times past than I've mentioned. This is kind of a renaissance time for geekdom, right? And we frequently talk about how, you know, you have to struggle these days between reading, you know, comic books, watching all the freaking CW shows like that are on every single night of the week, getting to all the MCU, and if you watch them, the DCEU movies. And playing all the video game releases. Thank goodness this is a light holiday season in terms of video game releases. But there's a ton of stuff, and there's a ton of stuff because people are willing to pay money for tons of stuff. So I think while it's tough for families, yes, it's tough for families to find the $300 to squeeze into their budget. It's not like that extra. It's not like that $300 is going into college savings, right? That's $300 that they're spending on a smartphone for a teenager who maybe arguably doesn't really need one, and that's a choice they have to make. I think this marketing angle from Nintendo has very little to do with social commentary. I think it's a matter of them marketing first to the demographic that they need to. They don't need to market to Pete and I because we have the disposable income to go buy the console if we choose to go buy the console, right? So the 80s kids, the Cold War kids who are at points in their life where they are, you know, predominantly financially stable or just senior enough in their career where buying a $300 console is a choice. They don't really need to market to, and if you're of that generation who grew up on the Super NES and the GameCube and the N64, you're probably going to buy the thing anyway. They don't need to market to the 10 to 15-year-olds because if
They have no money.
well, right, they have no disposable income. They need a demographic more in where we are to buy it for them. But if they're oriented around that type of gaming, again, same thing. They're going to beg for that console anyway. The people they need to market to are the 20-somethings who grew up in this bathtub where maybe it wasn't cool to play Nintendo, and they don't have a ton of disposable income. So you have to hit them first, right? For them, finding that getting the $300 to buy that console isn't just like picking to do so. It's, man, let me move some things aside and shift some things around and move the checkers on the game board to make room for this $300 purchase. That I want to make 6 months from now, right? So that's what I think it was. It was just marketing to who they needed to market to first. Just like Xbox One came out, and the first demographic they marketed to, which was a sub-demographic, was that gamer who only buys Call of Duty and Madden every year, right? It doesn't play anything else.
Oh no, I completely agree and understand. It's just kind of funny to see these 20-somethings with the high fashion, being driven in a van to the go-kart range or the go-kart track, and they're playing Mario Kart on the way. It's just like, really?
Right.
You're gonna do the real thing, and you gotta. Is this your warm-up?
Yeah. Well, and probably a little bit of that too is that exposure of kind of Japanese or even Asian-oriented marketing that gets a little tone deaf when it gets ported to the U.S. Or to the West, because I can absolutely guarantee that probably that isn't an unusual scenario for 20-somethings in Japan, maybe, where everybody owns a console or a portable gaming device. So, well, that has got to be a wrap for me. I maybe barely have time to do a little more live streaming and get less sleep than I should at my age, and do some other things in the morning. So, thanks so much for joining in. Pete, do you have any last alibi?
GoPro Hero, really fun. Waterproof.
Oh, nice. That's going to make... Hey, Dave, go ahead and give us your last shout out while I grab another thing.
I mean, I think that was pretty much it. I hope Nintendo does well on this next console. I think they should probably change their marketing strategy because of all the students that are in debt after graduation and don't have jobs after graduation. I don't know if my age range, well, definitely not in college, because you're definitely stretched in college unless you're living off mom and dad helping you. But I don't know if like the 23 to 27-year-olds, usually the post-college generation, is going to go for this. But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll definitely interesting. So Pete, so I did not go with the GoPro. I recently also had to make a similar shopping decision when I saw the prices, because I just recently built a gaming desktop and I made choices. I went with the Roam 3.
Oh, the Contour?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of my airsoft buddies have Contours and they love them.
Yeah. Haven't broken this out of the box, but
yeah, you're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Those are great action cameras, and really, it's like cars. You can't go wrong. You find something that you like, and you're gonna have a blast.
Right. Or I always use the motorcycle example that if you buy any of the super sport bikes from the top 4 manufacturers, like Honda, Kawasaki, Yamaha, and what's the one I'm missing?
Suzuki.
Yeah, those are all great bikes, right?
Yeah.
So what's funny is, and it's funny because of that and how it connects back to our conversation on Nintendo. I did not buy that for action. I bought that so I could film game videos with my 3DS without having this big bongo camera in between me and the device. So we'll see if it works well for that or not. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining in, everybody. This has been a full hour-long episode, which was not supposed to be our normal format until we got done with Luke Cage. But it's been a cool dry run to see what things are going to be like when we start doing this for an hour. So thanks a lot for joining in. This has been the crew at Geeks Worldwide on GWW Weekly, and we are out of here.